right, today we're going to start the video with a little saying. Here it is on my phone. You will be too much for some people. Those aren't your people. Totally makes sense. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and do our second day of notes. This is more solving linear equations, that 1 and 2 step that we did on last notes, but this time the focus is to justify. Okay, and we're going to be building on this concept as this unit goes on. So we'll go ahead and start with the addition property of equality. And I know you heard me talk about this on the last notes, the property of equality. We have these specific ones that we'll talk about. Let's write down the definition. So unfortunately, the start of these notes, it's going to be a bit of writing. So if A equals B, then, okay, A plus C equals B plus C. So I'm adding the same term to both sides. Then we're going to write down an example. Okay, for our example, if I have x minus 14 equals 24, I'm going to add 14 to both sides. Okay, I'm adding 14 because my goal is to solve for x. And then just the answer is 38. If you do it to one side, you do it to the other. That's the property of equality. Also notice the word equal is in this equality. So it's going to be on opposite sides of the equal sign. The next one, subtraction property of equality. If A equals B, then I can subtract C from both sides. Okay, so again, if I do it to one side, we need to make sure we do it to the other. And then the example that we'll have in our notes for this one, we'll start with the equation y plus 87 equals 70. To solve for y, I have to do the inverse operation, which is to subtract 87. Okay, again, if I do it to one side, we do it to the other, and then we can solve for y. My answer here is negative 17. The multiplication property of equality, very similar. Again, if A equals B, then I can multiply C to both sides. Okay, so again, if I do it to one side, we do it to the other. The example I'm going to start with is if I have negative x over 11 is equal to 22. To solve for x, we're going to multiply both sides by negative 11. So I'm going to go ahead and show that work in my next step. So negative 11 is multiplying on both sides. Again, my goal is to solve for x. So anytime that we multiply or divide, we can do it with positive or negative numbers. My answer here, x equals negative 242. Okay. Again, if you do it to one side, we need to make sure we do it to the other. And then the division property of equality. We'll start again with if A equals B, then we can go ahead and divide the same term on both sides. Okay. The example that we will have, 5x equals negative 20. To solve for x, we do the inverse operation, which is to divide. We divide by 5. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other. This step right here, division property of equality. My answer is x equals negative 4. All right, now down here at the bottom, this is going to be more like what your homework assignments are going to be about with justification. Okay, so when I say solve and justify with math work and with corresponding properties, we will always justify with math work. When I say to justify with properties, that will be this step over here. So here, to solve for x, just like the example that we had above, we will add 6 to both sides. Okay? We have our answer. X is by itself. Negative 52 plus 6 is negative 46. Okay? Unfortunately, we're not done. I'm telling you to justify with properties. And this property right here was addition property of equality. And this is pretty much the only abbreviation. Maybe you could do add property of equality, but pretty much the whole thing needs to get written out. Okay, let's go ahead and try our next one. Again, our goal is to solve for x, a positive x. My first step will be to subtract 7 from both sides. I get negative x is equal to negative 20. Okay, this step right here was my subtraction, and then I'll show you the abbreviations that I'll allow. So the subtraction property of equality. Okay, so this is the only abbreviation that I would allow. There's another step though, because we're solving for a positive x. So to solve for a positive x, we have to cancel out that negative. You can either multiply or divide by a negative 1 to cancel the negative. Typically, people divide by negative 1. Negative divided by negative, I get that positive 1x. And then x is equal to 20. And then again, at this step, my division, draw some arrows. For my division, it's going to be my division property of equality. Oh, sorry, I did not realize I was cut off from the bottom. Sometimes my paper gets stuck on the ladybug. Okay, now let's go ahead and flip it over and do a few more examples on the back. So we'll go ahead and start with number 3. Number 3, if we take a look at number 3, it's going to be a 2-step problem. Okay, so again, 2 steps to solve for justify with our properties. Remember, we're going to get our variable term by itself. We'll work with that last. We're going to work with our constants first. Inverse operation. So the inverse of a positive 6 is a negative 6. We'll subtract 6 from both sides. When I do that and I add this up, I have 4y is equal to 8. And I write my steps down as I go so I don't forget to write down a step. So this was the subtraction property of equality. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep going. 4 times y is 8. Okay, I know what my answer is going to be, but I do still need to justify. So I can see that I just used the division property of equality. And my answer, y equals 2. Let's try this again. So for this next one, we're going to get our variable term by itself. To do that, we're going to start with our constants. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides, the inverse operation here. And so 9 minus 4 is 5, and I drop down or divided by negative 3. To justify that step was subtraction, again, property of equality. And so my last step here to solve for r, the inverse operation is to multiply. I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 3. When I multiply both sides, I get the multiplication, or I use the multiplication property of equality. Okay, and then to finish this one up, because negative 3r divided by negative 3 is a positive r, and then on the other side I have negative 15 for my final answer. Okay? All right, that's it for justifying. That's what's new. The rest here on the bottom is going to be practicing some more with our translating and solving and these word problems. So let's go ahead. You can see the ones that I have circled we'll do next time I see you in class. So 6 more than twice x is 18. More than is going to be a plus, is my equal sign. So, and then twice is going to be 2 times. So 6 more than, 6 plus 2x is 18. I always have every year students say, well, shouldn't I be writing 2x plus 6 equals 18? Well, remember the commutative property, both ways are acceptable. Okay, so we wrote our algebraic expression. Now let's go ahead and solve. So to solve this, we're going to start with the constants to get our variable by itself. So inverse operation, I'll subtract 6 from both sides. We get 2x is equal to 12. Then to keep solving for x, we'll divide both sides by 2, and so x equals 6 here. Number 6 we'll do next time I see you. Now number 7. Number 7, we have a baseball bat and 8 baseballs cost $163.25. The bat costs $106.45. What's the cost of one baseball? So I'm going to underline. So it's a baseball bat and baseball cards. That's my total. Okay? It's telling me the bat costs $106.45. Sorry. And then our unknown, what we're solving for, is what is the cost of one baseball. So let's go ahead and label our variable. We're going to have x equal the cost of one baseball. Okay. Now let's write the equation. So for my equation, I know my total, but to come up with that total, it was one baseball bat, which is $106.45, 8 baseballs, okay, at an unknown price. So it's 8x, and then my total, $163.25. So let's go ahead and solve. So I'm going to go ahead and inverse operation, subtract $106.45 from both sides. We have 8x is equal to 5680. Divide both sides by 8. I have x is equal to $7.10. I'm going to write my sentence. And so my sentence is one baseball costs, and this is where I'm going to use my dollar sign, $7.10. We'll do 8 next time I see you in class. Just again to talk about writing variables, equations, and the sentence, and we'll go ahead and do 9. Number 9 says, a health club charges a $50 initial fee plus $2 for each visit. Moselle has spent a total of $144 at the health club this year. How many visits has she made? So just to reread, health club charges $50 initiation or initial fee, $2 for each visit. She spent a total of $144 at the health club. Our question is, how many visits has she made? That's what we're solving for. So we'll go ahead and start with what x equals. X is the number of visits. My equation, so just kind of rereading and writing it at the same time, $50 initial fee plus $2 for each visit. Well, each visit, that's what we're solving for, our unknown, so we'll have the 2x. A total of $144, okay? And now let's just go ahead and quickly solve this. So we'll start by subtracting 50 from both sides, that inverse operation. I have 2x is equal to 94. Okay? Inverse operation is going to be to divide. And so I have x is equal to 47. And we'll go ahead and write our sentence that Moselle had 47 visits. Okay, you're allowed to write more to that sentence if you want, but that's enough. That is it for these notes. Thank you so much for your attention and completing these. I will see you next time in class.